All right, welcome to part 2 of lesson 2.1, and we're going to be finishing up ratios and proportions. The next problem here, we're going to talk about blueprints, and they said the length of the room on the blueprint is 6 centimeters, and the scale, or where 1 centimeter represents 2 meters. What is the actual length of the room? So we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to put 1 centimeter equals 2 meters, right? That is the scale. And we want to find the number of meters. So once again, since we know the length is 6 centimeters on the blueprint, that 6 centimeters has to go here, which means our unknown number of meters is going to go on the bottom, represented by x. So it'll be x meters. Now we can do the same thing we did on the previous problem. If x is in the denominator, just flip both fractions. And now you have a much easier problem to solve. To get x by itself, I just need to clear this fraction, get rid of the 6, so we'll multiply both sides by 6. Those cancel, and we have x equals 12 meters. That is your answer. So the actual length of the room is 12 meters. Well, what if we're doing a recipe? Now this problem's a little bit different because I didn't give you specific ingredients. Right, but I'm telling you the recipe is for 4 people, and you need to change it for 10 people. So this problem, we have a recipe for 4 people and versus a recipe for 10 people. How would the ingredients change? Now, we can do 4 people and 10 people as one of our fractions. And then over here, you can put the original amount and then the new amount. So if you knew, let's say, there were 3 cups of flour in the original, so we could go 4, 10, and then we could do 3 over x. And so 3 is, these are both cups, right? So 3 cups of flour for the original, and I just made that number up. And then how many cups of flour would you need for the 10 people recipe? We can do the same flipping thing so we don't have that x on the bottom. And then once again we need to clear the fraction, and we'll clear it by multiplying both sides by 3. So that cancels, and we're left with x equals, well, 3 times 10 is 30, and 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. So the 10-person recipe would require 7.5 cups of flour. And then that would be true with any item, right? If you knew it was, 2 tablespoons of garlic, right, or garlic powder, you could just put a 2 here and then redo the problem and find it out. So the thing that is important, once again, people line up here, right? These are people, and then these are, and the example I used was cups of flour. These would be both cups. So that matters. And then these values up here, this is the original, right? The original was a 4-person recipe, and then this was the 10-person recipe. So that would be your setup. Let's take a look at the next problem. This is basketball players. So basketball player made 12 out of 20 free throws. So we'll put how many they made up top, and then the total number of free throws that they took. Right? They attempted. So total attempted. So in this case, they made 12 out of 20 attempts. And the question is, how many free throws did they make out of 50 attempts? Well, the 50 is attempts, so it has to be down here on the bottom with attempts. And we would put our X on the top. So the question is, how many free throws did they make out of 50 attempts? And we're going to do the same process again. We want to solve for x, so we need to get rid of this denominator. We need to clear the fraction. Once again, we clear fractions by multiplying by the denominator. And so both sides get multiplied by 50. Here they cancel. And you wind up with x equals, and this looks like a calculator moment to me, especially when the numbers get large. We are absolutely allowed to use calculators in this class. So 50 times our 12 divided by our 20, and that should give us our answer of 30. So that would be 30 attempts made if they attempt 30 baskets made out of 50 attempts if they did it at the same rate. Alright. And then for this last problem here, I wound up not covering this in class because the next lesson is on similar figures, and we wound up finishing this lesson at the beginning of class on Tuesday, and so we went ahead and jumped into the next lesson which covers this, so we're not going to worry about that example. And that ends the lesson.